What's going on, everybody? My name is Matt and welcome back to Kings of Crypto. Today we're talking about a ton of insane XRP news, including some things I want to share with you about Bitcoin and how it could affect XRP's price very soon near the end of the video, so make sure to stick around. With that said, let's get right freaking into it, guys. Okay, so the bubbles today, as of right now, are just absolutely going nuts. So if we take a look at what is going on, it is just green across the board overall, and this is a different type of growth, at least in my opinion. This is a very stable, very level, very green, very organically, truly green type of growth that I think you guys want to pay attention to. Solana, BNB reaching all-time highs. Bitcoin passing absurd numbers if we take a look at what Bitcoin has been up to, and I want to get to this a little bit later as well. But if we take a look at what Bitcoin's been up to, you guys will notice that it just passed in the past hour $123,000, which is bonkers, and the sign that a bull run, I believe, will come very soon. We take a look at XRP, what we were doing on the day price-wise, and again, you guys can see right now, $3.04. That's pretty much where we've been all day. You guys saw earlier, we had a little surge, a little peak up to around $3.10. Right now, the price sitting at $3.04. Market cap, $182 billion, with volume over the past 24 hours going up and rising consistently at $7.59 billion. If we were to take a look at what I mentioned earlier about the Federal Reserve, they according to Polymarket, which is a crypto prediction platform, they believe there is a 90% chance that the Federal Reserve cuts interest rates once again, which would be absolutely incredible because this will allow a lot of money to flow into the economy, a lot more investment, a lot more activity in the market and in the economy. So cutting interest rates would be absolutely excellent, as I do believe that would improve the activity of a lot of people who are more money scared at this point, that are just sitting on their assets. And I do think by cutting interest rates, we will see some asset mobilization coming very soon. So again, if we take a look at the course over the past month here, really what we were trying to fight against was that line of support at around $2.80. That's pretty much where the bulk of the problems come for XRP, because once we fall through that, especially if you look historically, once we fall through that 2.8 kind of range, once we fall off that ledge, it gets pretty rough and we head down to the lower twos. So I'm definitely looking to see if we can maintain past that in the near future. And when we take a look at the technicals, and again, this is something that I have been very adamant about showing you guys and talking about, because while technicals aren't everything, and these are of course only my own opinions, while they aren't everything, they are very useful to just take a look at. So a few things that I think we should start with before we get into anything else more is looking at these bottoms. Okay, so a lot of people start from the top. I like to start from the bottom to see where will we really bouncing off of. What is that bottom mark where it's like, hey, we haven't recently fallen below this? Well, from a technical standpoint, it looks as if one of those main points of resistance was around 2.8 here back in July, which ended up becoming our new support. So you'll see if we draw just a line across here, okay? This puts us at around $2.80, and you see that right in the middle of August, after the announcement from winning the lawsuit and all that good stuff, essentially we fall down to around 2.8. And then we surge back up in September, and then we fall back down to 2.8. So 2.8 is really the spot that we want to be looking for. That's really the spot where we want to immerse ourselves and ensure that XRP does not fall below, because that might be the time to sell and get ready to reaccumulate. So you'll notice that every time we do see that crash down below to right around here, as you can see, as it matches up to $2.80, it's not necessarily because it was being overbought. It tends to be from something else, usually news, or usually something with the market where everything is heading downwards. It's not necessarily that XRP is being massively overbought or anything. That's kind of the exception that I want you guys to pay really close attention to. Yeah, we have some periods of overbuying, especially back in July, but for the most part, it's not an indicator that XRP is being rapidly overbought. That's not something you guys are really seeing here. What we are seeing mostly is just changes in the news cycle and cycles of enthusiasm for investors, and that is why XRP for the most part crashes, and again, that's usually why it heads down to around 2.8. But now, if we take a look and we actually do our top line, as you guys know I love to do the top line as well, you guys can see it is pretty much condensing. It is squeezing in, starting with more volatility here, higher highs, lower lows, higher highs. And as we see this volatility, it kind of just trends into a more consolidated amplitude. If you look at it, it's almost like a wavelength, right? Like we have a higher high than before, but we also have a higher low than before, and the overall range is a little bit less. It's a little bit less of a range, which is, again, if you take a look here back in July, 3.6, and then a couple days later we're at 3.02. I mean, that's like a giant jump, right? We're not really seeing that here. We're seeing a very, very solid, very consistent, not overbought, not oversold, but very consistent bounce around between 2.8 and 3.1. And that's probably where we'll hang for a little bit unless there is something that changes that. And if we take a look at the fib extension, you guys know I love to look at this as well. The fib extension just indicates, based on some algorithms, what exactly we should be seeing. And again, if we take a look at our numbers here, you guys can see as of right now, we're sitting above this top line here, the 0.786 line. You guys can see right now that is around 3.05. And then it's projecting that if things go really well, if we reset our drawing here and we take a look here, if things go really well, we could surge up from here to around the 3.25 mark. That's if we have a really good day. And if we have a really, really, really good day, we could surge up to the 3.5 mark. So this is, again, somewhat hypothetical, somewhat theoretical, but this is some of the projected potential for XRP in the near future here. So it depends, obviously, but if we see an extension of the growth that we've seen so far, this is something we could be running into. Now, the thing I wanted to talk with you guys about that I told you about at the beginning of the video to stick around for is what the CEO of Coinbase said about Bitcoin. So he was projecting that Bitcoin could soar 792%. So Brian Armstrong recently predicted that Bitcoin could hit $1 million in 5 years. They would need to grow at a rate of 55% per year to hit that goal, which, again, you guys know I like more realistic predictions on cryptos. I don't like to say that XRP is going to hit, $10,000 or whatever, because that, wouldn't be possible. But I like to make realistic predictions and be realistic with you guys, because that's very important to me. So predicting that Bitcoin could hit $1 million is actually not impossible, and it definitely is something that could be in the cards for us one day. So again, one of the main factors, of course, being its scarcity. The fact that it's capped at 21 million coins and 19.9 million are already in circulation, there will be a point where all the Bitcoin that already can ever exist is already in circulation, which is something that I think a lot of people are going to have to pay attention to as well with XRP, because remember, XRP, max supply, 100 billion. Right now, circulating supply is 60 billion. So there will be a time where we run out of XRP that is no longer circulating in the world. And again, when we take a look really at what a lot of analysts have been saying, again, based on the recent lawsuit that was in August and September, we pretty much see the main reason why XRP has such a good projection like this. And again, as I've been talking about a lot here on the channel, it really was the legal victories and, of course, the fact that the community really did jump behind XRP here. So again, Ripple talks about that at the time, they were accused of a $1.3 billion worth of security sale since 2013, and then basically after the litigation concluded on August 7th, they both dropped their appeals, putting XRP in a landmark position. The coin now has something that many of its competitors crave, which is definitive legal clarity. XRP is legal. It is here. So it is officially not a security when sold on public exchanges. This is a stunning reversal of position for Ripple, as XRP has transformed from a regulatory nightmare into a digital asset with explicit validation in the United States. One of the very few cryptos that has that. Community mobilization, of course, giant community behind this. The SEC litigation brought a lot of community effort together. And again, if you look at XRP throughout its entire life cycle, even since 2017, there was just a huge amount of effort to really mobilize XRP and bring it into the limelight where it should be. Because again, this has been something people have been waiting for, man. It went from kind of a disaster, it went from kind of a legal mess to one of the best options out there, at least as of right now. So again, because of the community effort and the community push to get it legal, that was what was really, really important. So again, just winning this lawsuit, at least settling or whatever you want to call it, but it really was a win for them because the price just skyrocketed from there. And now, with the case being closed pretty much, with appeals rumbling on both sides, it wasn't until August 7th that the case is finally closed. Both sides filed a joint dismissal from their ongoing appeals with the courts. you said the end, now back to business. So just an incredible strengthening from the SEC without even realizing it. And again, you can see this really did strengthen XRP's narrative, because even top two coins, Bitcoin and Ethereum, must rely on informal SEC guidance. Although there are no official companies operating these coins, it would be challenging to file lawsuits against them either way. For those who have supported XRP through the legal battle, it has created a fierce bond with a strong and organized user base that's more committed than ever. The people that are supporting XRP, you guys watching this video, you know how much you care about this, how passionate you are, because it has been the right side of history. You came out on top after years of battling this. So this also gives institutional investors a lot of clarity. And of course, if we talk about Bitcoin going up this amount of percent, 792%, XRP could very well do the same thing. So what would happen? What would happen if XRP went up that amount? Well, if XRP went up 800%, so if really we see a 10x, right, or an 8x, whatever you want to call it, right? If we see an 8x or an 800% increase in XRP, that could put XRP at, what would that put it at? $24, I believe, or right around there. Say you went 10x, right? That could put it at $30. That is doable. That is possible. It's funny, if you look, how can XRP reach $30? If you really look at it, if you compare the market cap of XRP to Bitcoin, if you just do this times 10, you're still not at the market cap of Bitcoin yet. So that could very well happen. XRP could quite literally go to $30. No problem. That's in the cards. Would it get to $100? That's, different story. Would it get to $1,000? Very different sets of stories there. But could it get to $30? Yes, I definitely do believe it could. So that's definitely just something to think about, that I think would really make a difference for you guys to pay attention to long term when tracking XRP. But with that said, guys, I truly do hope you guys found this useful. Make sure to join my free Discord down below in the description. Subscribe and turn on notifications so that you guys are hit with daily XRP videos every single day coming to your inbox straight into the point. So thank you guys so much for watching. My name has been Matt. See you guys on the next one, all right?